This is the Kojima Productions Report with your host, Ryan Payton. Thanks for joining me on this Halloween edition of the Kojima Productions Report. No tricks planned for this edition. Actually, there's a lot of goof-ups. Truth is, earlier today I recorded a podcast with Aki Saito and Ayako Tateyama, which will forever be lost in some kind of data land because the file was corrupted and I couldn't edit it in Pro Tools, and so here I am doing the first monologue I've done on this podcast for over a year, I believe. So just bear with me. I'll try to keep it as interesting as possible by doing this solo. And again, I really appreciate you guys tuning into the program. So I'm back in Japan after a 2-week stay in Los Angeles. It was a busy business trip. Spent 1 week working on E for All. I helped man the booth, the Konami booth at E for All at the LA Convention Center. We had a really great show. There's a lot of talk about how the E for All had some low attendance, which is true, but we had a very crowded booth and we filled every seat from the morning of Thursday till when the show closed down on Sunday afternoon. So in that sense, I think we had a great show. MGS had a great showing, and I appreciate all you guys that came and visited me at the convention center, and we took a lot of pictures, and I got to connect with a lot of listeners. And so to all you listeners out there who took the time to say hi, thanks for coming to the show, thanks for listening to the podcast. It was a lot of fun. So following E for All, immediately following that event, myself and Kenny Maizumi, we both worked on the Logan project, which is what we're calling the opening movie. And this is an epic project, and I really want to go into it and explain exactly what we're doing, but we're going to hold off on that for a while. But just so you guys know, we spent a whole week working on this in LA, in Hollywood, with the guys from Logan, so anybody who's worried about the opening movie, that Kyle Cooper, who we adore and whose work we really respect, the opening movie is in great hands with Logan. And as we worked on it, it was a huge project. We had 30 people working on it pretty much around the clock for a week. And as Ken and I, we asked people and we talked to people on the team. It was funny because we had a hard time explaining what exactly the opening movie is really all about and what's the concept, because it's never really been attempted in games before. And so in that sense, we're really excited about what we're doing because we feel like we're on the right track. We have no references we can point to say it's like this or it's like this. And in that sense, I get the feeling that we're doing something very original. So once we know a little bit more, Ken and I will be sure to share it with you guys on that podcast. But really, the whole idea is to really surprise people when they put the game in their PS3, the retail game, and then see this really cool opening. So that's really something to look forward to. But I hope to kind of hint at a couple more things about the project as we move forward and get closer to launch. So I'm back in Japan. I'm battling a head cold, so forgive me if I sound a little weird right now. But I thought I'd take this opportunity to jump into the mailbox here. I've got a number of questions that I've been meaning to address for weeks now, but I'm finally back in the studio. I can finally check the mailbox and see all the comments that you guys have sent in. So let me kick it off with an email from Krill from France. And his question is the level of the playable demonstration of MGS4, the one that we showed at E for All and at TGS, will that be the first level of the game? That's a good question. That's a question I was asked a lot at E for All. And the answer is yes. The demo is from the first part of the game, from the first stage of the game. However, it's not the exact environment that you're going to be going to when you put in the retail version of the game. It's not the first environment. So we're kind of fast-forwarding the game about 15, 20 minutes into it. So it's still very early in the game, and the player is still kind of learning the controls and learning the environment. And one thing we kind of took away from the event was that there's still some tweaks that need to be made. The gunplay feels really good, I think, for the first time in a Metal Gear game, and in that sense, I think it was a big success. But we also found that people were just running and gunning through the demo, and they would most likely get killed because this is still MGS, and soldiers are going to be coming after you unless you're dead or unless you hide and then the alert mode goes back to normal. So in that sense, we ran into some problems, though, because people were just running and gunning and trying out all the weapons, which is good, I guess, but we still have to remind players that it's still a stealth action game, so we're going to be making a couple tweaks to kind of beat that concept over the head of the gamer that this is still a stealth action game. And that leads really perfectly into an email that I got from Milky Joe from the UK, and his question is, and bear with me, it's a little long. He says, I'm a little concerned with the direction you seem to be taking with MGS4. What I've heard of you talking about it, it sounds like you're shifting the emphasis more towards gunplay and away from stealth. Really, what I'm after is assurance that you're remaining true to the concept of the entire Metal Gear franchise, and that you're not trying to steer this more into a third-person shooter territory. This is my most anticipated game of all time, and I would be devastated if it turned out to be a third-person shooter with stealth elements. Well, trust me, my friend Milky, you have nothing to worry about. This is not a third-person shooter. We do have a third-person shooting mode that you can go into by hitting the L1 button and then firing with R1. However, it's still a stealth game at its heart, so I don't think you have anything to worry about. And trust me, I know what's great about the Metal Gear franchise and the series, and we're going to retain that with this title as well. Now, moving on to the next question, or the next letter, it's from Lutfi from Jordan, and he says, I saw the English demo that you played at E4All on GameTrailers.com. I noticed under the life and stamina bar that there was something like a stress meter. Can you please explain what that stress meter is and how does it work? Well, that's a question I was asked a lot at E4All, and something that we're really not talking about is the stress meter. But I can say that the stress meter goes up as you engage more enemies on the battlefield, as Snake takes on more stress. And there's a number of ways that he can take on stress. And this is based actually on real research that we did on battlefield conditions and soldiers, and how stress negatively affects soldiers' performances on the battlefield. So we decided to implement that in the game. And there's a lot of funny ways you can get that stress meter down, and a lot of really cool ways you can get that stress meter down. And these features that we'll be revealing later on in the game. But for now, I can just say that the stress meter, as that stress goes up, it's going to negatively affect your accuracy, and it's going to make you more fatigued. So there's just a number of ways how the stress meter is affected. But that's all I'm really saying about the stress meter right now. So going on to the next question, it's from Stuart Burns from England, and he's got a great question, and it's something I'm surprised that a lot of people haven't asked up until now. Is that will it still be possible to complete the game MGS4 without killing anybody? And the answer to your question is yes, it will still be possible. You can get through the demo at E4All. You can get through that without killing anybody, and that's something that's always important for the MGS4, or the MGS series. And it's a big reason why I joined this production in the first place, is that while the game can be very violent at times, and it's still a war game, there is this pacifistic undertone of the title that we actually reward players for, going through the effort of playing the game from start to finish without killing anybody. And that's really like the ultimate challenge, I think, for a gamer, is to kind of suppress that killer instinct. And it's also a really positive thing as you turn on the nightly news and you see reports about Manhunt 2 or GTA, or even Half-Life has been a target, and I'm sure Halo has been a target too. It's just that people look at video games as just a violent medium, and I wish that more people would take notice that the MGS series, I think it prides itself on the fact that you can actually go through the game from start to finish without killing anybody, and we'll be sure to implement that out as well into MGS4. So I've got 2 more notes that came in from listeners that I'm actually going to hold off on until a future podcast. I'm hoping to bring in John Riccardi again from 8.4, who's a master of translation and localization, to address these 2 concerns that these listeners brought up. It's Shadowstar and Ultima 1, both from the United States, that basically brought up some concerns about the way that I'm handling the localization of MGS4. It's going to be a lot of fun because they bring up some valid concerns, but just so you guys know, there's nothing to worry about, but it'll be fun when John and I address these in a future podcast. And also coming up in a future podcast is one that I recorded last week in LA with Corey Barlog from the God of War 2 team in Santa Monica. And it's a lot of fun to talk to him about God of War 2, his role in that game, and the upcoming God of War title for PSP, The Chains of Olympus. And so we had a good time talking about that game, and talking about MGS, and talking about game development. So be sure to tune into a future podcast to listen to that one. And I think that's going to wrap up this really quick edition of the Kojima Productions Report. I've got a lot of cool stuff planned for future podcasts, including this one with Corey Barlog that I'll be uploading in the next couple of weeks. And also, it's going to be interesting as we move forward because we have a little bit of added development time. So we're going to have to stretch out the material a little bit. But it's also going to be interesting because essentially we're going into a media blackout from here on out, because E4All was really the last big event of the year. And we really need to focus on finishing this game and making it as good as it possibly could be. So with that said, Ken, Aki, and myself, we're going to be trying our best to bring you guys really interesting, really insightful podcasts as we move forward. And one thing on the docket is MPO Plus exclusive podcast, where we talk about our new title, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops Plus, which is coming to PlayStation Portable on November 13th in the US at a budget price of $19.99. And that's something that we're really excited about. It's a standalone game. It does not require the previous Portable Ops or save file from Portable Ops. So I think you guys are really going to dig it. So send in your questions if you have any about the game, and we'll be sure to address that in a future podcast. So without further ado, that's going to wrap up this special edition of the Kojima Productions Report, the monologue edition of the show. Again, I appreciate all of your support, and check back next week with another show. Thanks.